I thought this would be an interesting conversation because of the talk about GLP-1s
Mhm.
and not about what people think it's going to be about, which is just about weight loss, but a different layer about perimenopause and GLP-1s. So let's start talking about that and how this is different, a different conversation.
Yeah, I have to say, like, it caught me by surprise. Can I just start by saying that? In the industry for 32 years and didn't really go into any type of research on Ozempic because I don't deal with obesity. I'm a weight loss expert, but I'll be honest, the people that come to me aren't looking to lose 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds. But I was still the trainer over here thinking, okay, this is awesome. We now have something that's going to take the weight off these people so they're not going to die of comorbidities. Let's let them win the race and teach them how to run. Hopefully, somebody's working with these people and teaching them some lifestyle stuff, but whatever, not my monkey. Okay. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what the hell happened, but I hit perimenopause. I was like, is this going to happen to me? Thought I was special. I don't know. So I really did. I didn't even know the definition of perimenopause 5 years ago, which is slightly embarrassing, but happens to be true. It was the depths of COVID. And I'm a business owner. So I was dragging my spin bikes in and out of my studio. And I was just like so consumed with the chaos of the world that I had no idea that I was struggling. If you think about like our lives during that time, especially in the beginning, my husband and I have 6 children, circled the wagons, brought 5 of them home. Our house became a frat house. And it was like filming TikToks and it was mayhem. So like eating more, drinking more, doing all the things. And it was what was happening with me, even though I'm so in tune with my body, was very disguised. And I didn't really know what perimenopause was or what to look for because it was for old people. Okay. So it was not for me. And after about a year of really suffering in silence, I did what I think most women do is I started talking to my friends. I really didn't even know. My mom had a hysterectomy when she was in her 20s after she had me. That generation is so lost. It's so sad. It's so sad. And if we're not careful, this generation is going to get lost too, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so I got things all figured out for myself from a hormone perspective. Okay. So, first of all, I just want to preface this with this: I'm the lifestyle girl. There's not one stone that needs to be turned over. Oh, I wonder if I should eat protein, or oh, I wonder if I should stop drinking alcohol, or oh, I wonder if I should focus on my sleep. Like, I have the infrared sauna, I have the cold plunge, like, I'm doing all the things. I addressed all of the hormones. Okay. I gave that almost about a year and I just kept gaining weight. So, for somebody who's an expert, and a leader in the industry and somebody who is very visible in my town in Santa Barbara, California, owning a spin studio, that was a hell of a predicament because I was so visible. And who motivates the motivator? I'm the girl. Like, I'm the girl that walks into a party that everybody comes over to, either wants to confess all the things that they've been eating and drinking, or they want to ask me the next fitness tip. So it was a really awful time. I still didn't know what I was going to do. Okay. I really didn't. Okay. I really didn't. And a client of mine sent me a podcast that was about GLP-1s in conjunction with dementia and helping. Now I understand because GLP-1s help with neuroplasticity. They bring down neuroinflammation. I understand that now. I didn't at the time. I am somebody who really enjoys research on brain health. I'm a bit of a nerd and dementia scares me. So was sending me this information because of dementia. And so I'll never forget it. I was on vacation. I was weight training, which is what I do when I podcast. And I just sat down because this doctor is telling my story. She's talking about discovering GLP-1s in perimenopause because she was wearing a perimenopause sweater. She was doing all the things and none of the things were working anymore. And it was that 10 to 15 pounds. It was just there. Not only was it belly fat, but it was just there. It was all over. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. I think that was probably the first thing I felt was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. And then to hear an expert, a physician who was exactly my age telling my exact story, I just got this feeling like there's hope. But isn't it true? Like when excitement goes up, fear and doubt goes up at the same time. And I thought, oh my God, am I going to be the trainer on Ozempic? Is this happening right now? Am I going to be
You're
the
like, this is
girl?
going to be me? Am I going to be this person?
And I was like, I literally was judging myself so hard, which is so embarrassing to admit that I'm so skeptical In a good way, though. I'm not ignorant skeptical. I'm skeptical and I go do my research. I'm not talking Instagram research or Google research, ChatGPT. I'm talking like clinical research, but I'm skeptical, not to a fault. I think being skeptical is really good. It means you're a critical thinker. But I was already, before I had even started my research, that was what stopped me. I'm like, oh my God, like I don't, no offense to anybody on Ozempic, but am I going to be the girl who's doing it for 10 or 15 pounds? Anyway, I just didn't have the information. How's that? I didn't understand hormonally what was happening in my body. And that's where I just have such a passion for where it is I am in life right now. What I'm doing is there's such a massive gap of education. There's a massive gap of education. And I'm not ever going to say that a GLP-1 peptide for women in perimenopause is a must. It's not. I think that we have to really focus on what is going to work for us, and everyone needs different tools. And a GLP-1 peptide in a very small amount is just that, it's a tool. So after I did a mountain of research, I knew with 1,000% certainty that I was insulin resistant. I knew. I just knew because all the things I know about myself. And it took me forever to try to find a physician to prescribe because they treated me like I was an idiot and like had body dysmorphia and I should go on antidepressants and just all the things. Got such a runaround. And I had this also epiphany. It's always a good thing when people tell you're crazy because it means you're onto something. And so I was thinking that too from a business lens. I'm like, oh, everyone thinks I'm crazy. Okay, here we go. This means I have opportunity. And so anyway, long story short, I found an amazing physician who was my first prescribing physician out of Beverly Hills, microdosing. And within 6 months, I lost 20 pounds. And yes, it was about losing weight because let's be real, my clothes didn't fit. I felt like I was like in somebody else's body. Okay. I didn't recognize who I was. But the other thing that happened for me is, and I preach this constantly, we cannot diet. The diet culture is dead. We have got to let it go. We've got to stop the restriction. We got to bring in common sense. Women ask me all the time, what can I not have? I'm like, there's not a list. Okay, there's not a list. Have whatever you want. And I was finding myself slipping into that restrictive behavior. And that felt so, it made me feel like a phony because I felt so lost and it just kept escalating. And anyone who has experienced this, who's listening to us, is probably nodding their head. You just feel so out of control, especially when you're doing all the things that you know to do. And it just gave me my life back. It gave me my life back. I'm not anybody different. I'm the girl I was 5 years ago. So it just gave me a little bit of this leg up and helped my body kind of recalibrate. And I cannot stop talking about them.
I love the story, but am I going to be that trainer? Good. I want to back up just a little bit because I think with the audience, there's a lot of fit pros and maybe like yourself, and you said you didn't know 5 years ago what the definition of perimenopause was. There
Yeah.
may be a lot of that happening now, from people
Yeah.
listening to it. So
Yeah.
can you enlighten the audience a little bit about the definition of perimenopause and some
Yeah.
symptomology so
Yeah.
we can start gathering kind of a sense of, hey, everyone knows what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Let's build the foundation. So perimenopause is the beginning phase. It can last for 10 or 20 years, by the way. Okay. Before menopause. Menopause is literally 1 day. Okay. It means that you haven't had a cycle for literally 365 days and then you're immediately postmenopausal. So isn't it interesting that you're in menopause for 1 day and then you're postmenopausal? Okay. So perimenopause shows up differently for everybody. So I liken perimenopause to your wellness journey. It's just not a cookie cutter approach. There's not a one size fits all. There's not one thing that we're looking for to say, yep, you're diagnosed, you're in perimenopause, which is so unfortunate and so challenging because we are misdiagnosed constantly. There's a lack of education in the medical community. So for those who are listening, please understand physicians come by this honestly because there's not any menopausal care in medical school. None. So unless they've gone on and gotten accredited and done something to really understand how to care for women, it stops postpartum. It stops at childbirth. So what happens, and like this, I'm going to speak from my own experience because that's what I have. You get misdiagnosed with anxiety. You get misdiagnosed with depression, with sleeping disorders. Do you know that suicide rates are the highest in perimenopausal women? It's so sad what happens, but there's a myriad of symptoms. Okay, let's talk about it. Weight gain, belly fat. I had cellulite on my knees. I'm not looking for any sympathy, but this girl doesn't have cellulite on her knees. Okay. That just is what it is. And I'm like, and it feels like it happens overnight. The thing that's so interesting about my symptoms though is you would think that the weight gain would stop me in my tracks. You know what it was for me? It was my lack of sleep because I'm such a good sleeper and it was like clockwork. So two things were happening with me. I was either up at 2:55 a.m., 3 a.m., or 3:05 a.m. It never strayed. It was like every single night. But the worst part was I woke up with anxiety. And I'm not somebody who's anxious. I'm not like que sera by any stretch, okay? But I am not anxious. That is just not my personality. And I was waking up and worrying about the dumbest shit ever. I'm like, what in the world is happening to me? And that is what got my attention. There's estrogen in every operating system in our bodies. It's frozen shoulder. Okay, plantar fasciitis. This is all lack of hormones. It's not every time, but it is wild. So it shows up in such different ways, but the things that we see the most are sleep, brain fog it is you walk into a room and you're like, just gonna sit here for a second. Cause I know that 10 seconds ago, I marched in here with such purpose and now it is gone. I can't tell you, I actually called my husband once when I was at my spin studio and asked him if he came and took my car because I couldn't find my car keys.
Hmm.
I want you to unpack that for a second. Why in the world would I walk to the spin studio and take your car and not tell you? Like, it doesn't even but it's like the weirdest things start happening to you. You do feel like you're losing your mind. And the part that sucks about that the most is you go into a doctor's office more often than not, and they're like, yep, you're losing your mind. So here's a sleeping medication, here's anti-anxiety medication, here's antidepressants. So that's a long-winded answer to say that it's ambiguous. It's ambiguous, and you've
Right.
gotta learn to be an advocate for your own health. You have to learn, or you gotta find someone like me who's gonna help you. You gotta learn to get quiet and pay attention to how you're feeling and go into a physician's office as an advocate for your own health, and don't take no for an answer.
Sounds like too that obviously it's a pretty long window for perimenopause,
Oh,
but also
yeah.
sounds based on what I'm hearing that there's a symptomology that's occurring that was not occurring before. It
Yes.
was not part of your everyday existence for a pretty long time. And then all of a sudden,
It's just there.
something it was there, it changed, which is probably a good thing for our audience to hear. Hey, this is you haven't been experiencing this. Now you're experiencing this. This is on the table of what's happening.
Absolutely, like the sleep and the anxiety. It was so glaring to me that there was apps like, "Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
This is not for me. This is not typical." Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to transition to because we're both very long time trainers, and this
Yeah.
is what this shows for our colleagues and things and clients too. They want to listen in as well. But how do we get past that idea that you said about being the trainer who's on Ozempic or just talking about it or semaglutide without there being all this stigma related? Because it's a polarizing discussion
Oh,
amongst
absolutely.
in our community, very big time
Oh my god,
too. Not
it's
just the
like
bigger
the up for
public,
me.
it's in our community big time as pros. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I love that question because yeah, it's definitely the trainers that come for me more so than just your average consumer who's trying to get some information. And I just want to say without being a total bitch, tell me you're uneducated without telling me you're uneducated because that's the reality. If you I know that you haven't done your research when you're out there parroting the fear mongering. And that was never me because again, I wasn't dealing with that population. So I hadn't done my research and I'm not stupid. So I'm not going to get on platforms and be like, why are you on Ozempic? Just was smart enough to keep my mouth shut, number one. Okay. And then to do my own research. So you know what? I don't know what to tell you. The research is there. It is okay. Let me just say this for people who are jumping out of their skin right now listening to me. Okay. I get it. It is misused and prescribed. Okay, is that a word? It's overprescribed. How's that? It's misused and it's overprescribed in a major way that is a major problem. I recognize that. We have a compliance issue, we have a dosing issue, and I recognize it, and the physicians are guilty of it too. I'm not looking to throw anybody under the bus, but it definitely the stigma didn't come out of thin air. Okay, but this fear mongering. Oh, like Ozempic is eating people's muscle. It drives me crazy. I'm like, you guys, you look so uneducated. I'm sure all the trainers who are listening to you right now would never do this. But there are trainers out there who are saying things like it eats your muscle. It is just literally not true. However, if you're going to go on a GLP-1 and and you're not doing it with a health coach, okay, and you're getting cranked up on the dose, and you are not doing any of the compliance pieces, which are weight training and hydration and protein and fiber, right? And steps and sleep. If all of those things are not taken into consideration, you are up shit creek. You absolutely are. I agree 1,000%. Not a great idea. Don't do it. I tell clients all the time, people are beating down my door to get their hands on peptides. And I'm like, not your girl, unless you want to work in my program and I can monitor you for an entire year with body composition scales and food journals and old fashioned work.
Oh,
I'm like, not your girl. This is not a get out of jail free card. This is not monotherapy. This is not take a shot and do nothing. It's the furthest thing from the truth. And if we're utilizing it in perimenopause for the reasons that I'm using it and the reason, again, with a prescribing physician, we're using very finite amounts and getting amazing results. And you just can't take that away from me. I have gained muscle in the last 9 months. I mean, I'm under this stuff like a hawk. I'm like, come at me. Come at me with all your nonsense. I have more muscle on me now and half of the body fat.
you know what's interesting about this discussion, why it's polarizing, because I think there's still a very old school mentality related to weight loss and this idea that you are doing something that is, it's almost like a performance enhancing drug conversation. You're
Yeah, like
cheating.
steroids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're doing
absolutely.
steroids, you're
Yeah,
cheating,
you're cheating.
and you're not doing it the old school way.
Uh-huh.
There's the training montage is you're not doing the training montage. You're not doing how we used to do things, but we know things progress in life
Mhm.
and that many answers are very nuanced, not just
Not
this
black and
or
white.
that.
Yeah.
But we like to live in those areas a lot of times. And I actually think it hurts our credibility as trainers when we're speaking foolishly without actually doing any investigation, real investigation.
Absolutely.
And it hurts our industry when we
Mhm.
have that going on. So I just think it's that stigma. I'd like to have these conversations so we can try to like chip away at it
I
and
love
say, hey,
that.
these are
And I
reputable
love
people. You know?
yeah, and I love debate. And everybody is have your feelings and have your opinions, but do the research.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we cannot fight these new battles with old weapons. And we have to readjust and we have to realign and we have to course correct. And thank God we figured this out about peptides. Thank
Yeah.
God. I don't know where I would be over a year ago. I was in a very bad place, and it was not from a lack of effort.
Yeah.
It was not from a lack of effort. It was not from a lack of know-how. It wasn't from a lack of education. It wasn't from a lack of application. It was my body literally changing.
Yeah. Of course. And I think we're also dealing with in thinking about thinking backwards is what was the normative behavior then? And we're trying to put that normative behavior into today and say, this is how I've always done it. So I
Yep.
don't want to have any plasticity in my thoughts related to this. This is just how we grind.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating though? And that's always a red flag for me too. Even in business, when someone says
Yeah.
to me, this is the way things have always been done. It's, oh, great. Here we go. You have to be adaptable.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And our profession, especially as technologically advancements start happening quicker and quicker, it's more than we can handle almost.
Mhm.
Our sense, our operating system is not caught up to the advancements that we're having.
Yeah.
So we have to be flexible programmatically in our approach, what we're doing. I think about it. You've been in 30 plus years, I'll come on 25 years. I remember starting in this business when really the only reason people came to you was just the physical aspect of it.
Oh, 1,000%.
Only,
1,000%.
only. Mental health was never a discussion. It wasn't on the table. If you were to mention, I'm here to have better resilience around mental health, people would say, what are you talking about? What's wrong with you? That's not a thing anymore. And in fact, a good chunk of my clients come to me for mental health resilience and just feeling
Mhm.
better about their life.
Absolutely.
And you know that if you've been in the business a long time. When people come, they enter one way, but usually their priorities change. What
Listen,
as
it's
they
a
ate.
sneak attack. You probably will agree with me when I say we do a lot of brain surgery.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
There's a lot
absolutely.
of operating in that
A
in
lot of
that sense.
operating.
A lot of operating for that sense. When you've had these discussions related to GLP-1, peptides, and perimenopause, tell me about the stories that have been really amazing. Because I think it's important to highlight. We talked about how people maybe try to have resistance, but what have you experienced that's been so amazing with the people you've worked with?
Oh, what I love is taking somebody who is so skeptical and so adamantly against what they think that they know and flipping it.
Yeah,
And that takes a willing participant, to be clear, I'm not a
of
magician.
course.
That takes someone who's, like, open to learning, right? Well, I'm after you've been on this, it's not my first rodeo. So after you've been doing this for a while, I'm a pretty good judge with I'm not dragging anybody across the finish line with their ponytail. Like, I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm too old. I'm
Yeah.
49, I'm not doing it anymore. This is what I think is so fascinating about peptides. Like, and this is something that I had no idea. And this is just peptides. This is GLP-1 peptides in general. Okay. For those who don't know a lot about them, not something that an area where I struggle, but the most fascinating thing that I have learned in all of our case studies, because I work tandem with nurse practitioners and physicians. So we all have case studies. We're always chatting about stuff. Food noise. You just don't have when it doesn't consume your life, okay? When food does not consume your life, you really just don't have an empathy. You really just don't understand what that feels like.
Correct.
And I think it catches people off guard. It caught me off guard. I think that you don't realize that you do have food noise. They're using these peptides for addiction. It's wild. It literally shuts off food noise. Okay, that is so liberating. Somebody is 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds overweight for a reason. And it is the most liberating feeling in the world. And I have to say that those are the stories that stick the most with me when I'm working with clients, as you're like, I'm not grabbing for that chocolate at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or I'm just not grabbing for those things. However, let me just put a big asterisk next to this. This is also a dosing issue because if you are dosed too high and you don't want to eat, do you see where this is going?
That's exactly right.
So you have got to find the sweet spot. We want to do as little as we possibly can to get a result. It's slow and low. The goal is not to lose a massive amount of weight in a short period of time. It is not to crush people's appetites. It is not to make you nauseous. It's not to do any of those things, but just to quiet that little thing that sits over here that's come into the kitchen. And it until I experienced it for myself, I really just did not understand the gravity of what that feels like. And I
Yeah.
just work with amazing physicians who just know how to dose this correctly. So you just sit right in that pocket of where it's just, you don't think about it. You're not thinking about your next meal.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, like I'm a hawk, okay, a bit of a control freak, and we are food journaling and we are prioritizing protein and fiber and doing all the things because I also understand that when that food noise gets dampened and you're not obsessing over it, you're also maybe not making it a priority and you have to. You have to. We gotta hold on to lean muscle. It is everyone knows who's listening to us. It is your gold. It is your retirement account. It is everything.
100%.
You're holding on to it for dear life, and we're bringing down our body fat and our or your whole system. I mean, in perimenopause, we get visceral fat. Like it's gnarly.
Yeah.
Like it is just like the whole thing changes. It gets turned on its head. And this is just giving us that little leg up. But again, it's got to be done correctly.
I just like, Kayla, how you're always following, saying something about your experience with actual advice and saying, hey, this is not always the case. There
Yeah.
are exceptions here. We have to be careful with that. Spoken like someone who has really done their homework on this, things critically. And I can add to this. I have several clients who are on GLP-1s, and one of them specifically, she had that exact same thing. She said, I no longer think about food constantly, like this genetic hunger drive but on the other hand, I understand the other side of what you said. Now, what she has experienced is not being hungry.
Yeah.
And that's also an issue is when do I eat if I'm not ever hungry? Now, there's an issue there. There's another set of things we need to think about. But for someone to be liberated from the feeling that I have never had in my life, I have to have sympathy, empathy for that and recognize that we have to approach these things in ways that may not be what our approach is, but it's what's best for our clients.
I totally agree, and that's I everything I teach is what I've experienced. I'm working with women, and so this is my wheelhouse. I'm in it. We never get there. I'm in it. I'm in the fire still. But again, like I would not have known how to explain that or how to address it
Yeah.
unless I really was living through it. I even went off semaglutide and went on tirzepatide, not because I'm trying to lose weight, just as I want to
Right.
see what it feels like.
Mm,
And the peptide game is not cheap. Okay. So
of course.
but it's really, you don't have to be on these things forever. You can go on and off of them. GLP-1 peptide is a hormone. Our bodies make it. And I'll probably cycle on and off of them for a very long time because I feel so good. I feel so good. And like I said, when they're used safely, they're just so effective. We have just not seen really anything like this. And I
Yeah.
hope that people love to hate them. It's just,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
just giggle.
I think anytime you have a pharmacological agent
Absolutely.
that you add to enhancing performance or feeling better, we just have this idea that we have to sweat it, grind it out to get to that
Yeah. And
point
that we're
where it's
cheating.
not,
All of a sudden, I'm a
just,
cheater. Yeah.
just you're not, it's
Yeah.
not a real thing
Yeah.
for that. But that's a very antiquated idea, honestly, people. And that we have it's interesting. You talked about COVID pandemic, and I've always been a big proponent of the fact that yes, while we had that, we've always simultaneously have had for a much longer time a pandemic of obesity and overweight. It has been we have not reacted to it the same way, clearly, but we have a condition that is fatal for it's
Mhm.
a just a trigger. It's a gun trigger for
Yeah.
a variety of comorbidities. For that, we should be in much more of an uproar about the health of our citizens and helping them to get in better positions, not just for the metrics of their health and wellness, but for the functionality of their life and to be with their loved ones as long as possible in a functional manner. We should be more in an uproar about that.
Shouldn't we?
Shouldn't we be really worked up about that?
Shouldn't we? Yeah. It's like, I honestly can't even go there. It's
I
so upsetting.
understand. I understand.
This country is so upside down and
I totally get it.
our food is poisoning us. And we could be on this. You and I could sit here for the next 10
I
hours.
know,
This
right?
it makes my head spin. And then we've got the professionals of the world who are throwing shame at these people who are now able to get their lives under control. And again, we're hoping that they are doing all the lifestyle pieces
Right?
that goes without saying, but I want to repeat it again. They need to be doing the compliance piece alongside of it. It's not monotherapy, but man, let's give these people a break. I
That's
mean,
exactly right. Let's give some
mm,
people some peace of mind for a little bit. Just even mentioning the food noise part is
yeah,
not often part of trainers understanding that, understanding food drive, hunger signals, time of eating, how food makes you feel. Instead, we've lived in this society that demonizes food, makes it food morality constantly, which just tears people's feelings about food to shreds and
absolutely.
creates more symptomology and pathology related to it. Just give
Mm,
people take some of that cognitive load off. It's always off, right? And
yeah,
if we think about it, we do this all the time in a lot of different areas of life, right? Your
mm,
people are always trying to alter their consciousness to take off the cognitive load in their mind. This is
yeah,
another version of that.
yeah,
That's all it is.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. And I'm so grateful to amazing people like you who are just open to having the conversation. So we can at least maybe spark some interest as a fitness community. Those of us who are out there leading the charge and wanting to change people's lives, like just get the education. Just go do it. It's not hard. Also, by the
No,
way,
no.
like it's not hard to go out there and do some preliminary research. Really, if you're in our industry, there should be a desire to want to understand why
Mm,
these are out there, how they're helping people, understand how they are being misused and overprescribed, but really understanding like it's not a cheat code. We're not cheating. It's not a crutch. It's a real deal. And guess what? They're here to stay.
100%. And that being produced more and coming up in pill form,
Oh,
more
oh,
many there's 20, 30 types of drugs or medications coming out.
yeah,
It's you're not going to stop these things. And take it from, I'm going to say, from two people who've been in the business a long time, we're probably the most unlikely people to be so progressive about it because we've been around a long time ago. We could easily
absolutely.
have a different idea about this easily
I
because of
mean,
our stigma.
I was pumping iron at Gold's Gym when I was 19. Yeah, I would like to say, I don't want to throw you in my camp, but I'm a bit old school. I'm a bit old school, but I also don't prescribe to eat less and move more. You have to be smarter than that.
Yeah, it's a nuanced conversation. It's multifactorial and
Absolutely.
environmental triggers, personal things going on. And even one of the things I love talking with clients about is we need to talk about your personal life, the stress you're having in your life, the relationships
Yep.
that you're forming, or that what version of this is contributing to your lack of health and well-being. Because trainers, our scope of practice is expanding in these type of ways. We have to talk about relationship health with our clients.
Absolutely.
Huge trigger.
Yeah, it's holistic.
Yes.
Tell clients that all the time. Like, the reason why what I do works and the reason why what I do is sustainable is number one, I'm giving you something that's specifically for you because you're special, you're unique. I have two clients that are alike, and I take everything into consideration. I take your lifestyle into consideration, your relationship, do you have kids at home? Are you an empty nester? Are you
Right.
working? Are you not working? All of these things matter.
They all matter.
They all matter. Yeah,
They
we
all
can't
matter.
what we're putting in our mouth and how we're moving our bodies. It's
And
so an old
yeah.
school way of thinking.
And when you're working with people for a pretty long time, their goals and ideas, they're moving targets. They
Oh
change. Do
gosh,
they have
aren't
little
they?
tiny kids, 2 and 3
Yeah,
year olds when you start
yeah,
working with them? And then they have 15-year-olds? It's a different life when your kids are much
completely.
older versus when they're little. Is their job situation different? Career changed over the course of your time? I've seen that. And most of my clients have been with me a huge amount of time, going
Mhm,
upwards 20
same.
years and stuff. And you see how different their life is as it changes. And they see how different your life is too, and what your work with them means over that time.
And the functionality, like, I have a 76-year-old client, and we were just chatting about it because her husband is advanced dementia right now.
Okay.
And so we have lots of conversations about just longevity, and she's been with me for so long, and I just am always so proud, and she always is getting compliments. She's just so strong. She has muscle definition. She is just
Yeah.
but she works at it, and she's such a beautiful picture of what we all should be chasing. Hey, listen, I wanna look great in a bikini too, okay?
Who
Guilty.
doesn't want to look
Okay.
great in
Who
these
doesn't
things?
wanna look great in a bikini? You
Come
wanna look
on.
great in a bikini too.
Yeah,
So, like,
exactly.
I absolutely wanna look great in a bikini, but I'm also smart enough to know at 49 that I'm making some major deposits into that retirement, and I wanna look like Kim. Like, she is just absolutely killing it, and she's up and down, and with my older clients, I make them get up and down, off
That's
the
the
mat,
same
on,
thing.
right?
Same thing. I do the same
Up, down,
thing. Yep.
and that's the functionality that they need. I mean, do you remember when we had those huge mudslides here?
I do remember that.
No,
Yeah.
it was devastating. They had to get to their roof, the client that I'm talking about. They had to get to their roof because the mud came in. And it sounds so dramatic. That whole thing
Of
that just sounded so melodramatic. But you have to have functional strength.
course.
If you are in your 70s, you're trying to climb to your roof because the mud is coming. I hope you can do it.
I hope you can do it.
I hope you
Yeah.
can do it. And those are the kinds of things that I think about. Like, we have got to keep people strong. And if you're
Yes.
going to utilize a GLP-1 peptide, just to bring this full circle for a
Yep.
moment, you your weight training and your intake of what you're eating is so paramount. It's
100%.
so paramount. So,
Totally
anyway,
agree. I love that we have this similar philosophy. I have several 60 plus 7-year-old clients. I mean, when I do their intake with them, like a large part of what we're going to be doing is getting you to the ground and getting back up.
yep,
They're like, really? I'm like, seriously, you
yeah,
need to be able to do this. This is a
yep.
life saving skill for you. Because,
And
as you get older,
interesting, right? That for a lot of
right?
people, that is not easy to do.
It's not. And they think, I do this. I'm like, no, you don't do
No, no,
this.
you
You
don't.
actually don't do this. I'm like, well, you're going to be doing this a lot
Yeah,
because this is going to save your life or
yeah.
just enhance your life as you go on. Man, what a great conversation between colleagues. Seriously.
Seriously.
Man, Kayla, I'm glad we've met each other.
Me too. Me too. I really appreciate you having me on.
Of course. So let's let everyone know how they can connect with you and your awesome
Yeah,
service
yeah,
and to learn more about you.
yeah. I'm Kayla Johnson Fitness, KaylaJohnsonFitness.com. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook. Same.
Thank you so much, Kayla.
Yeah,
Seriously, wonderful
of course.
time. Can't wait for people to hear this. Our fellow pros and clients out there and just
Yeah,
recreational exercisers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
absolutely. Really appreciate you having me. Thank you.